Greetings, dear ones. I am Sonia, the host of the Treasures You podcast. Let us aspire to be the greatest forms of physical expression by allowing our presence to navigate the steps of our journey through the highways of our mind, the roads of infinite potential, and within the inner sanctum of our heart, knowing that the treasure is you. Greetings, dear ones. As you can see, I have a guest on the Treasures You podcast. But first, I would like to give a brief description of him. His name is Mark Collins, and he is a coach, a husband, a father, as well as an author. He is an author of Life Mastery, Living Life by Design, Not by Default. His passions and expertise are in guiding people, several hundreds and counting, in overcoming the fear of uncertainty that is standing in their way of the life that they are created for. He has created several online tools and courses to equip his clients to accelerate the impact that they are meant to have in their businesses, relationships, and in life. So I welcome Mark Collins to the Treasures You podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you for being here as well. It's an honor to have you here. And I just admire what you're doing in the world. And it is people like you that are coursing a new path to help people create whatever type of life that they desire by unleashing the hero within, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Sonia. I appreciate it.
Yes. So, Mark, I would like for you to begin wherever you want to begin your story. Like, what prompted you to create? You have a book called Life Mastery and to become a coach.
Thanks for the question. I appreciate it. I have the book Life Mastery, Living Life by Design, Not by Default. I have courses and all of that, but it really all started with my own journey in kind of growing up and, the way I did. Everybody has their history and a past, and we can unpack some of that if we want. But growing up into adulthood, really kind of wanting to use success as an ability to overcome fear of failure, imposter syndrome, the things that I struggled with, which is the same as a lot of my clients. I think of a client, Brett, who was very successful in business and at the same time struggling with imposter syndrome, right? It's the person that people don't see. It's the me on the outside looks good and measuring up and feeling like they've got it all together. But that person that's waking up at 3 a.m. with fear or anxiety or worry and the things that you're struggling with, right? And being good on the outside, but not on the inside. I was that person as well. And so for me, it was the life journey of figuring out how to have that man on the inside show up on the outside in business, relationships, in life, being confident, being assured, being the person that you're created to be. You're not trying to measure up to somebody you're not. And so in finding it in my own journey, I, found the ability and instructions to live it out and created a course for that because, Sonia, like with yourself, I'm sure, when you find something that you think is amazing or transformative, you want to share it with everybody you know. And so first and foremost, it was sharing it with people I knew, and then seeing that this was a need, not just with Brett and other clients that I could talk about, but frankly, everybody I meet, apart from some sort of transformational journey, are living from that place, like I say in my book, Life by Default, where life is just happening and I'm trying to do my very best to get through it or succeed at whatever level I can, but really not unleashing that hero and hiding, like you said.
Wow, that's amazing. I want to ask you, you said imposter syndrome, correct?
Yeah.
I have heard that saying through my life, but I have never actually known, like, how did you know that was what was happening to you? You witnessed it, what was it?
That's a great question, Sonia, because a lot of times we know the feelings because we're dealing with them on a daily basis. We don't know that somebody else has put a label or a title to it. And that was the same with me, right? I knew that I was, in every situation, whether it was starting our own business or trying to get my degree in college or what have you, that I wasn't feeling qualified for what I was walking into. In fact, I felt disqualified. Like that
Right.
gentleman I talked about, Brett, who he felt, even as a successful business person who is doing all sorts of amazing things in life, felt disqualified, felt like he didn't measure up,
Mm-hmm.
that he wasn't qualified for the business or whatever. And it can happen in relationships, it can happen in life, it can happen in marriage or relationship with somebody that you feel like, you're not meant for success, you're not meant for happiness, you're not meant for contentment in your life. It's that feeling that I'm not qualified for what that desire is that I have. And there's a
Right.
tension there because you
Right.
want to succeed, you want to reach out for it, but at the same time, you feel like if you do, you're going to fail at it. So it's a
Mhm.
paradox, but yeah, that's you. Sometimes we know the feelings, but we don't know the title behind it.
Right. Yeah, the labels. That's why I'm sharing with you.
Yeah,
I've heard that saying, but I never, added that or really
yeah, for
gave
sure.
thoughts of it into, you said it and other people have said it and I thought about it, but I can understand that now. So thank
Yeah,
you for
for sure.
sharing that. I would like to ask you now too is what type of people come to receive help from you? Is it men? Is it women? Is it just a multiple a
Yeah,
range of people?
yeah, that's a great question, and I think a lot of it is similar to my own journey in that at different stages of life we can be dealing with desiring for more than where we're at, whether it's in a job and you want to get a promotion or a new job, or you want to go from being a worker to a manager or what have you. So
Right.
I find that it's in all sorts of realms because it really isn't specific to an industry, although there's a lot of people who have businesses that really reach out to me because it's in what's in common is when I'm striving beyond what's comfortable, when I'm reaching
Mhm.
for a little bit more than what I have, that's where you start to find the holes in your life, the areas where you're feeling like you're not qualified for, you're not as good as, or you desire to have it, but you don't know what's holding you back from doing
Right.
it. So it could be in any business or any job or students. You're going to college and you're trying to get that degree and you feel like you're not as smart as your instructor, your teacher, the teacher's aide, and everybody else around you, right? Or
Mhm.
in relationships. So, yeah, it's across the board. But what is common is that it's usually the people who are reaching beyond themselves or want to, or
Right.
really some haven't even taken the first step. Some are there and they're kind of in the midst of those negative thought patterns and things that are happening. So, and it can be men or women. It's not exclusive to men that imposter syndrome or feel failure happens. It's in adulthood for all
Right.
sorts of people. I grew up with three sisters and a mom I was very close to, so I have an affinity to help women. And obviously,
Mhm.
I'm not obviously, but I've been married for 33 years, so
Mhm.
I have an affinity for women, but there's also an authority with men in guys living out the same journey that I've walked in. And so my passion is really for people. I've had a focus on men, but there's been women. Evelyn, a person in our course who was dealing with, in her business life, in her relationship life, feeling like she wasn't a person of value and worth and didn't have purpose, right? She was living a life. She was punching the
Right.
clock and doing their job and taking care of her family in the ways that she needed to. But there
Right.
was this internal feeling of being devalued, not because of the relationships, but because of her past. I
Right.
tell people, Sonia, I tell them this, that you're either living from who you're created to be or what your life has told you. Well, every
Yes.
one of us has had a life, and every one
Right.
of us has a life that speaks to us. And many times it's not telling us the truth, it's just telling us our experiences wrapped around what we think is the truth. And so for Evelyn, it was really unpacking some of that in her life so that she could start to feel, as she said in her own testimony that she gave me, that she finally felt value and purpose in her life. Her external world didn't change, her job and her relationships and all of that, but her internal world did, as she started to see herself more truly, as we say, living from identity, from who she was created to be, not what her life had told her she was.
Right. Right. Wow. Yes. And I can just say that as I said earlier before I press record that you are setting a path in this world because you are
I appreciate it.
listening. Yes, you are. You're listening to your clients, you see them. And because of those two things, which I believe is very important, you are helping. other people that come to you to receive some type of assistance, some guidance so they can tap into their own greatness.
Yeah.
And yes, so I appreciate you for doing this because what you're doing is creating a better world for ourselves now, for our future generations. That means that people are valuing their self worth now. They are having that notion that, okay, I can create or I can be a better business owner, I can be an entrepreneur, or he or she, if she's, or a man, if they're a stay at home mom, maybe you are helping them in some type of way just to understand themselves so they can have a happier life and better relationships, like you said. So your book is helping across the board with every area in a person's life. Am I correct? It can, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. Yeah, what I tell people about the book, Sonia, is I call it your blueprint for success. It helps you to go from living a life by default where you're, striving and trying and working towards
Yeah.
success to really igniting yourself and having big dreams and taking big
Yeah.
swings and experiencing big wins in your life. And that could be in any area. For me,
Right.
I talked to a person who was a business owner and I said, I'm not here to help you with your business. I'm here to help you with you in your business. And so, like you
Right.
said, in any vocation or area that you're living in, my passion is that people would understand that there's an impact that the world needs that has their name on it. And when they start to understand who they are, when they stop living from their past, start living from their present, living from their identity, who they're created to be, now all of a sudden, not only do they benefit because now they feel like they're unleashed and their
Yes.
life purpose is happening, but the world is better, like you said. Their
Yes.
relationships are better, their families are better, their jobs better, their business is better, their neighborhoods better,
Yeah.
because the person that they're created to be, the person that we need them to be, is showing up in every area of their life. It's my passion for people to have the tools and
Yes.
strategies that we have in Life Mastery, Living Life by Design, to have that be their life.
Yes. And I can feel that. I can feel that from the words that you are speaking. I can feel it because that is what our world needs is for every person, if they so desire,
Yeah.
want to live from that part of themselves that is authentic and creative and true, and like you
Yes.
said, true to know yourself from the inside, because once you do know yourself from the inside out, that's when everything, it just ripples out into the world, and we all can see it and we can feel it. It's just a beautiful transformation that people are having in their lives once they know their inner worth, their inner self, their inner being.
Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely.
So,
Yeah, absolutely. It's like one of my clients, Vance, who was doing well at work, and he got engaged with Life Mastery, the book and the course, and he started to see the changes in his business. But what he really started to see was changes in his home, because
yes.
again, like you said, that ripple effect. So the man that he was created to be, the person that he was desiring to be, right, that he needed to have show up, was not just showing up at work, but now all of a sudden he was that engaged husband, that present father, that person who was emotionally available and authentic and there for the family members as well. So the reason I told that business person, I'm not here to help you with your business but to help you in your business, is because
Right.
when you change, every aspect of your life changes. When you accelerate or maximize your life, when you become that hero instead of the hero in hiding in every area of your life, then all areas are affected in a way that's amazing.
Yes. Yeah. See that, I totally get that. And yeah, that right there, I don't want to say it's a secret, but yeah, that right there, what you said is everything,
Yeah.
because it's the key to happiness, to freedom, as you say,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Yes.
And fulfillment.
And
What I
fulfillment.
A lot of my clients, when they come to me, a lot of people, when they talk to me, they're looking for success. So help
Right.
me to be better in my job or business. Help me to get that promotion. Help me to get that increase in income or those
Yeah.
things. And none of those are bad, Sonia, as you know in your own life, and I know in mine. The problem is when they take place of your identity, when they become everything you're striving for, then your success won't matter, because at the end of the day, you and I know people who are amazingly successful, and I've worked with people who are amazingly successful but miserable on the inside,
Right.
that people who have high levels of success in one area and other areas of their life are a disaster. So for us, it's really having that pivotal shift of understanding we're not going to help you get better at your business. We're not going to give you business strategies. There's lots of companies that can do that. The difference is we're going to make you better in your business, because any strategy won't change who you are. It won't stop your fear of failure. Any strategy won't make you feel like you're a person of purpose at all when you know that you're not, because your history has told you that. So yeah, it's really starting to change from success to fulfillment, that freedom
Right.
that you talked about.
Right. And I want to just touch on what you just said, like failure. Can we touch a little bit on that? Because a lot of people, including myself in the past,
Yeah.
we are not willing to step out and do things because of failure, because
Yep.
of maybe a failure of maybe your parent, or maybe society, or
Yeah.
whoever may say, oh, you should not do this because you might fail. But I have found out, when you do try new things, it's not a failure, because
Right.
a failure to me is not trying at all. And I
Yeah,
don't even,
absolutely.
I really don't even like to say failure, but it is an experience that you will learn from. That's why I wanted just to ask you about your take on that word failure.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
Now I was going to say, one of our transformational strategies is mastering your thoughts. And so failure starts with your thoughts. And what I tell the people that I work with, and that I found in my own life also, Sonia, and even working with John, is one of our clients who was looking for a program that actually worked, who had tangible and actionable steps that you could take versus just philosophies that you don't have any
right.
way of implementing. But what we talked about was failure, and what I tell people is this: again, you're either living from your identity or you're living from what your life has told you you are. And in that place, most people that I know who you look at failure as a negative, as something that's going to stop me, as something that's going to prevent me from whatever the goal is that you have, is that failure becomes an identity statement. It's not failure as an activity. Okay, well, I tried that business and it didn't work. I ran out of money, or I made bad business choices. We had to shut the doors, right? There's those physical attributes of what failure looks like in your life. But really what it comes down to is the identity statement that you take away from it. It's not the activity that you're engaged in, that you're either doing great at or you're not doing good at all. It's what those activities and the results of them say about you.
Right.
Nobody worries about failing at something, you know, like whatever, some small little minuscule thing in their life, because they know that it has no identity statement attached. But it's in
Mhm.
those things where I'm striving for something in replacement for identity, where I
Mhm.
need business to success to prove who I am, where I need
Right.
that, that relationship to work out, because I need them to show me that I'm worth loving. It's
Right.
in those places where they become an identity statement, that failure has all the weight on it, that it's either all or nothing. I'm either doing great, or I'm not, or I'm doing horribly. First off, we align them with their true identity, who you created to be, through some tools
Mhm.
that we use that are outlined in the book Life Mastery, Living Life by Design. But in that place of understanding identity, then my activities just become activities. They don't become a marker of, am I smart enough? Am I good enough? Am I worth success? Am I worth loving? Do I have value? But it's an activity towards an end, and the end is living out the life that you're created for. And on the way, you'll have success, and on the way, you'll learn something. You could call it failure, you could
Mhm.
call it a learning experience.
Right.
But at the end of the day, if it's something that is a failure that is debilitating, it's stopping you from moving forward, then what we know, and what we know what to address in the book and in the course we have, is it's an identity statement that you're taking from it. What I do to succeed or fail, whatever activity I'm great at or I don't do well at all, at the end of the day, when I know who I am, it doesn't have the weight of telling me that I'm not worthy, I'm not okay, I'm not good enough. When I don't know who I am, then every activity has to work out right in order for me to feel okay about myself.
Right. Yes. Yes. That's very true. Thank you for explaining that. Now, I wanted to ask you as well, is there anything you want to share from your book right now with the viewers, like some key points that can just help them in life?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. The very first foundation that we talk about in the book is identity, and one of the things we talk about is an I am statement. So it's writing down a statement of who you are apart from your things. So the
Right.
first thing is understanding there's a mindset shift of saying, I'm not my activities, I'm not my income, I'm not my role, I'm not my position, I'm not my title. I'm not even my possessions. Who I am is apart from those things. Those are add-ons to my life. They don't equal my life. When you can disassociate from your activities, all of a sudden you can start to see the character of who you're created to be. So what we
Right.
have people do is create an I am statement, because that does two things. The first thing is it changes your mindset, right? So that
Mhm.
the report card of life isn't me having to measure up through the things I do, but really have to unpack who I am. And so we
Right.
have them create an I am statement. Who are you created to be? And when you're writing that down, then now all of a sudden we have a tool, we have a strategy for you to
Right.
live it out. And so our strategy, we have a 3-step transformational strategy system: mastering your thoughts, words, and actions. Well, now that I have a script, or I have an affirmation, or whatever the thing is, I have this paragraph that tells me this is who I am. I'm a man of character and worth. I'm a man of great passion and deep
Mhm.
interest. I'm a person who is all in on the things that he does. He's committed to the end. He can be counted on by his friends. He's a person who loves well and laughs often, right? Whatever the thing is that you have, now all of a sudden you know who you are. It's not tied to my activities, so I can be
Right.
who I am, whatever's happening around me.
Right.
But the challenge is that thoughts happen for every one of us, 50 to 70,000 a day, most of them subconscious, but there's also those conscious ones, and we know which ones those are. They're the ones where if we're getting in an argument, I'm talking about how horrible I am, or when we are having a business downturn, or I lose my job, now all of a sudden I have this thing saying, you're a failure, you're horrible, you're not measuring up, your family's going to be ruined, whatever the thing is you're saying, right? It's the negative self-talk that happens on a daily basis. What
Right.
most people don't realize is that negative self-talk is really your past speaking to your present, trying to create your future.
Right.
Right? It's the things I've walked through, and oh, I know what that means. When two people get in an argument, that means the relationship's ending. Well, now that's what's going to happen here. We don't think about it consciously, but we get those emotions, we get those worries, we get that stress associated with it. So what we
Mhm.
give people is, again, mastering your thoughts by continuing to use it as an affirmation, the I am statement as an affirmation, reminding yourself on a daily basis, this is who I am.
Right.
It puts
Right.
your life into perspective. So if I lose a job, well, it's a job I've lost. It's not me as a failure. A
Mhm.
relationship is having a challenge. We're getting in an argument. We go to sleep at night and we're mad at each other. It's not an identity statement that says, I really blew it and this relationship's going to fail. I'm not worth loving, but it's just a disagreement that needs a resolution. So now
Right.
all of a sudden it puts your life into perspective, because you're not trying to use your outside world to measure up. What I tell people is this, Sonia: if I know who I am, then everything comes into alignment. And when I don't know who I am, the world has to make up the difference. And
Right.
in that place, that's that life by default where everything has to be good. And if it's not, what's wrong with me? What am I going to do? Even people of great success who have these
Right.
doubts and worries and fears on the inside. And so the first step is I am statement. Who are you created to be? If you don't
Right.
get to the point of saying that, then basically you're going to allow the world to tell you who you are, which is all the possessions, positions, titles, and roles that you're trying to use to create an identity.
Right.
What, right, everybody I know who has got great success and found out that it was a failure is this: even when you have all of those things, the success and the joy lasts for about 10 minutes. And
Mhm.
then you have to reprove yourself to you, because you really don't believe you're successful. You're just using those successful things to make
Right.
up the difference. When you know who you are, now all of a sudden that person showing up has an amazing life. And that's our goal for the people we work with.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. I wanted to ask you as well, when the people are using these I am fill in the blank in the beginning, for most, how do they feel? Because this is like, this to me is like a quantum leap. You're jumping to another phase
Yeah,
from, I would say, victim, victimhood, or what, that
that's
type
good.
of, and then now you're standing more into, okay, I am fill in the blank. So for most, when they first start, do they feel uncomfortable?
That's a great question. I think for a lot of people, first off, it's challenging
Yes.
because we're not taught, and we haven't grown up knowing. Anybody at any generation hasn't grown up understanding that you're who you are apart from the things you do.
Right.
The whole world and whole social structures tell us that I am my title, I am my position, I am my
Right.
possessions, I am my income, right?
Right.
And it's not that any of those things are bad. The problem is they're a horrible substitute for an identity.
Yes.
And if I don't get identity right, then I'm going to have all of the outcomes that come along with great success, but not knowing who I am, which means that I could be amazing at business, but my life's a disaster. I could be amazing at my athletic endeavor, but my relationships are a disaster. I could be amazingly rich and wealthy through the things I do. And within 5 years, I'm already broke because
Right.
I don't know how to sustain things that were an identity substitute.
Right.
And so for the first part, it's this mindset shift that makes them kind of understand first and foremost what they've been doing
Right.
and how to separate themselves from that. The other challenge that comes up and we walk through is believing you are those things. And so
Right.
what I don't tell people is create an idealized version. I'm wealthy, I'm amazing, I'm changing the world or whatever, right?
Right.
It's character traits of who you are, not
Mm.
somebody else that you're trying to imitate.
Right.
Because when you try and bring up a lot of the personal development programs I worked with brought change and habits in my life, they didn't bring transformation. That's why I created Life Mastery and wrote the book Life Mastery, Living Life by Design. But in a lot of those circumstances, what they tell you to do is think of somebody that's the perfect person you want to be, and then speak towards it, act towards it, walk towards it until you become it. And in
Mhm.
most cases, in my case also, you will never get there because what you
Mhm.
know subconsciously is I'm not that person.
Right.
And so when we start with an authentic understanding of identity through the I am statement, it's who you are. It's not you being an imitation of somebody else, but who is this person you're created to be? Now, all of a sudden, you start to give yourself permission to just be you.
Right.
But
Yes.
then again, it starts to ignite dreams because now all of a sudden, well, if I am that person, then what does the life that I have look like lived out? What's what I call the life mastery life, right? For us, the goal in life mastery is living what we call a life mastery life, which is you living at the maximum level that you were created to in every area of life. And so you
Yeah.
may not be the next Elon Musk, you may not be Jay-Z, but the life you have is not just successful, it's fulfilling. It's actually you feeling like this is exactly the life I was created for. And
Right.
so it's challenging to take a paradigm shift, but when you start to understand that you've been doing it all along and it's gotten you nowhere, now all of a sudden people are open to an opportunity for something that maybe will bring transformation. And a lot of people are used to change. They're used to
Yeah.
habits, they're used to mantras, they're used to things that they're doing. I've walked in them as well. The problem is the habit you use to get there is a habit you have to maintain to stay there. And that
Right.
doesn't sound like freedom, the word you and I used earlier. It sounds
Right.
like you're in bondage to your habits. And there's another word for that. It's called exhaustion.
Yeah.
So what
Yeah.
we're not trying to do is make people exhausted, but give them resources until they start to see that person show up. And when I
Mm.
start to see that what we call hero in hiding show up, well, I don't have to remind myself that I'm that hero in hiding. I don't remind myself of who I am when I'm showing up as that person. Now all of a
Right.
sudden I'm transformed. So I don't have to remind myself through habits for the rest of my life. I just have to bring that mindset, that pivotal shift into transformation so that that person, that man or woman shows up. And then they show up that way for the rest of your life. You can't be lied to once you know the truth.
Right. That's true. We are going to round up the podcast, and I would like for you to say any last words to the viewers and anything else that you want to share. And we're going to end the podcast. But it was a delight to have you here. I'm going to let you speak right now. So
Yeah,
go for it.
absolutely. I have the book Life Mastery, Living Life by Design, not by Default. It's actually in an ebook format on my website. So you could
Mm-hmm.
grab the book, have it on your phone, you could have it on your tablet, you could have it on your computer, you could have it right there, and it has all of the tools and strategies you need to overcome the things that are standing in the way of the life that you're desiring. So whether it's imposter syndrome and fear of failure like I've had, or lack of feeling valuable or purposeful like Evelyn was, or the person I talked about earlier, Brett, who was in business, but really dealing with that anxiety that was waking him up in the middle of the night. It's really you being unleashed in the person you're created to be. And so you can find that on my website. I believe it's in the marquee scrolling down below, and
Mm-hmm.
freedom-for-life.net. But here's the thing that's not in the book and is not on my website. It's the ability to have you bet on yourself one more time. That's all in your hands. And
Yeah.
so I believe I have an amazing transformational tool and strategies in the book. It's in an ebook format. It's less than $10, and you can find transformation in your life. But your commitment is to say, I'm willing to bet on myself one more time. I'm willing to bet that I can have the life I'm created for. If you're that person who can do that, then the resources are there. And it's my passion and my heart and belief that that's the person you want to be. And on the other side of that are the answers that you're looking for.
Yes. Yes, beautifully said. So, as I always say towards the end of the podcast, to remember to always stay in the present now moment and to enjoy. If you can, let's just have this concept of enjoying the steps of our journey. And I know some people may not like hearing that, but the steps of your journey is teaching you things about yourself. And let's also remember that the treasure is you. So take care and namaste.